My name is Kristen Harbison. I'm the president of Poe Baltimore, which, as I was explaining, is the nonprofit that was created specifically with the mission of protecting and preserving this house and celebrating the legacy of Poe in Baltimore and beyond. My background is in both museums and historic preservation, which is how I got brought onto the board. I have a master's degree in history and certificate in museum studies from the University of Delaware. I worked at all the museums in the Inner Harbor, the USS Constellation Museum, the Baltimore Maritime Museum. Those two have combined since into the Historic Ships of Baltimore. And I worked in the Small Museum Association and with a lot of the different sort of local and regional museum associations. Edgar Allan Poe moved into this house in 1831 with his aunt, his grandmother, who was bedridden, and his two cousins. One of his cousins would later become his wife, so his aunt would become his mother-in-law. There were 4 rooms in the house. There was a small parlor. The room that we're in now would have been the kitchen. And then there are 2 bedrooms upstairs, plus a little loft, which we have set up as Poe's bedroom, although we certainly don't know that that's where he slept. It shows nicely as the place where he slept. Yeah, very small quarters, very crowded conditions, but they would not have been uncommon for a family of certainly of his class in the 19th century. This would not have been an outrageously small house or an outrageously large house. It was pretty middle of the road. The house was closed just a little over a year ago so that the house could get refreshed and updated. The exhibitry that we have here is new. It is designed to reflect the broader mission of Poe Baltimore as being not just the house, but sort of his legacy beyond the house and throughout Baltimore and beyond. So his parents died when he was very young. His father abandoned him and then shortly thereafter died. And then his mother died not long after that. He was just about 3 years old. So he and his siblings were all fostered out to different places. And he was fostered out to the Allen family in Richmond, which is where he got his middle name. He was born Edgar Poe. He became Edgar Allen Poe when he moved in with the Allen family. The Allen family never adopted him, though, which was, I think, probably, again, led to sort of his feeling of being unsettled. He was very, very bright. He was an incredibly bright child. He was very pretty. He was very happy. Like he was that sweet young thing that was just petted and feted and adored, and spoiled. But at the same time, he was never made to feel. They went back and forth between spoiling him and being very hard on him. Behind me and on this wall, we have the list of the things that we think that he wrote in this house. Now, there's none of his big works, none of his famous works, none of the things that we all read in 7th grade or in high school, like The Raven and Annabel Lee and The Black Cat and Telltale Heart and Pit and Pendulum and all those things. Those were not written here. So it's not. But what was written here was MS Found in a Bottle, which was a piece that was written and won an award through a Baltimore publishing company. And he received $50, which was not a small sum of money. And that was really sort of one of the things that started getting him attention as a writer.
Westminster Presbyterian Church, home of the old Western burial ground, was created in 1852 to care for the graveyard. Edgar Allan Poe had been buried there in 1849 in an unmarked grave.
In 1865, Sarah Sigourney Rice began a movement to make a more dignified grave for Poe. The architect of Baltimore's City Hall, George A. Frederick, was called upon to design the grave. On November 17, 1875, Poe's grave was dedicated to him.
Along with Poe, he was buried with his aunt, Maria Clem, and his wife, Virginia Poe, in 1855, thus reuniting them for eternity.
Fun fact about Poe is that he had a cat. I don't remember his cat's name, but she was a calico, which having a calico cat myself, I'm very fond of.